Sorry, Paul, we're very informal to a formal.
That's because I think Jeffrey's on.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's meeting of Cheltenham Borough Council's Cabinet. My name is Councillor Rowena Hay, and I'm leader of the council. We have one member of the public, so welcome to you, Mr. Martinez. And we also may have those who are watching on live stream. So any member of the public that's present, if you are here to make any representation to the meeting, you are consenting to the use of the sound and video recordings for broadcasting purposes. There is also CCTV and audio recording in operation in the foyers and the public gallery, with recordings held for 5 months. We're not expecting a fire alarm of any a test of any sort, so should it go, then please make yourself immediately to the nearest fire exits. I have no apologies for tonight. We are all present. Any members have any declarations of interest that they wish to declare? Take that as a no. We then move on to the minutes of the previous meeting that was held on the 8th of April. Has any member that was there got any comments that they'd like to make? Councillor Telford.
One tiny thing, when it's mentioned in my report about planting trees at Burrows Field, it's spelt Burrows like Cheltenham Borough, where it should be Borough like a badger. Thank you.
Okay. So no other comments. Could I see a show of hands to approve those minutes for those of us that were in attendance that day? Thank you kindly. So that we've got no public questions, all member questions, all petitions at this meeting today. We have nothing that's been referred from council, overview and scrutiny, or any other committee. And that neatly leads us on to section 5, which is the reports from cabinet members. We are today, we have just the one report, which is the physical activity and sport strategy for Cheltenham Action Plan. It is indeed in my name, but actually it is because at the time that we went to publish, we didn't have the relevant cabinet member, but we do now have the relevant cabinet member. So Councillor Telford will be presenting this report.
Thank you, Leader. Obviously, I've been in the role for a good 8 days now. And thankfully, as you say, most of this was done previously and with Martin. So he's left a handy thing in the report itself where he's got a lovely introduction, which I'm going to read out Martin's lovely introduction to this report because I think it gets across most of the detail. As Cabinet Member for Economic Development, Culture and Wellbeing for Cheltenham Borough Council, I'm proud to introduce Cheltenham's Physical Activity and Sports Action Plan. This plan is a vital step towards creating a healthier, more active and inclusive community for all of our residents, regardless of age, background or ability. We know that regular physical activity is essential for maintaining both physical and mental health, but today's world is constantly throwing challenges at us. Illness, inequality and anxiety can all undermine our health, and so many distractions on screens and TVs draw us into less healthy, sedentary lifestyles. This action plan is designed to address those barriers and create an environment where everyone in Cheltenham can enjoy the benefits of sport and physical activity, developed in partnership with local sports clubs, national governing bodies, Sport England and community stakeholders. This plan lays out a roadmap for improving our facilities, supporting local initiatives and fostering a culture of active living throughout the borough. Through collaboration, investment and a clear focus on inclusion, we aim to ensure that Cheltenham is a place where physical activity is accessible, enjoyable and a part of our daily life for all. Together we can create a vibrant and active community that thrives on well-being, connection and the joy of movement. And this report is asking you to endorse that. That intro leads into the physical action plan, to endorse that, obviously to delegate authority to us to make any changes to the leader and the director of community and the economic development, make any amendments to that as it goes forward, and to use this action plan then to establish a steering group that will oversee the progress of it and identifying with partners we can work collaboratively to support the delivery. We had a very positive meeting at ONS last night where this was presented by Richard Gibson, and there was lots of questions that came in across the chamber, so that was really good. And obviously certain things were highlighted where people already have questions about how we can support this sport more and how we can support that sport more. One of the things that was noted is obviously there's a lot of focus on football, partly from our previous playing pitch strategy. One of the benefits of football and focusing on it is you can draw in a lot of outward investment from football, inward investment. You can draw in a lot of funding from the FA and all these other levels of the game, which creates facilities that can be used for many things, but also creates the facilities to take those football matches and those teams off existing sites. So those can then again be used for things like they were originally being used for, an example being a lot of hockey pitches, and then the sand type astroturfs are being used for football because there's nowhere else for football to go. But that means that there's nowhere for the hockey to go. So the more football you can provide facilities for, the better for everything else. And there were some really good suggestions yesterday, including a kind of a Let's Get Cheltenham Active campaign and what we can do to encourage people with comms and things like that. But obviously we also have a lot of really positive things already, like our youth activity pass. I think this is a really good report and a really good point for us to be and an action plan to move forward, because I think that's the key thing, and try and get as much investment as we can from elsewhere and do what we can for our own facilities to ensure that they are developed in ways that we can, and to look at external funding and things like that to make sure that we are providing what we want to provide. Because at the end of the day, I love playing sport. I know a lot of people do, and I know a lot of people also don't like playing sport and they like to do walking, cycling, running, all these kind of things. So the more we can do to support all of that, the better, especially in our town where I know it's a really important thing for a lot of people. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Telford. Apologies, I forgot the mic. So I've got Councillor Collins first, I've got Councillor Doby next, and I've got Councillor Jeffries, and then I've got Councillor Atherstone and a Councillor Baker. Councillor Collins.
Thank you, Leader. And I'm glad, as a former high-performance sportsman, I'm glad I'm first. Okay. I just want to say I welcome this. I think it's great. I mean, sport has been a big part of my life, my whole life, and my family's life as well. So anything that can be done to help not just improve sport, improve the facilities, but also get it out there to everyone that, you know, it's a good thing for not only our physical health, but our mental health as well. And I could list out 100 benefits from being involved in sport in some way, shape or form. But I'm just going to focus on those 3G pictures, which are talked about on page 24. And again, there's reference to rugby and 3DG pitches on page 34. I know we're trying to go in the right direction here, but I think it's a sad indictment. I really do. There's only one artificial grass pitch that is used for rugby within the area, and that's not even in the borough. That's at Cheltenham Tigers. And I know from personal experience that we have the old Pats, that we have Cheltenham North, we have Cheltenham Civil Service. This is men, women, minis and juniors as well, all using our pitch when their pitches aren't available because they're grass pitches, because they're either not playable because of the weather, or they're not playable because they're not in very good condition. Our pitch gets used all the time, and we have to maintain it properly. We've got the university there, we've got the rugby league team there as well. Gloucestershire Police, British Army use it. When there's World Cups in Europe, Rugby World Cups in Europe, we often get a visiting national team that can use it as a camping base as well. So I think we should be doing all we can, because it's a big family. Yeah, and I'm sure that football's got a big family as well, and cricket's got a big family, but rugby certainly has. And I think it's a really, really positive thing to get the message out there. And it's our job as a local authority, I think, to support this sort of thing and take it forward and make it available to people that perhaps wouldn't have even thought of it. So thank you, Councillor Telford. All right, and to Martin, of course, because I know he did an awful lot of work on this, and Richard at the back there, because me and Richard, we've had some communications over the years about this too. All right, thank you very much.
First of all, I'd like to say I think this is an excellent paper, this walking action plan and strategy, and I certainly support it. I was just wondering, however, in its next version, perhaps, whether we could highlight walking a little bit more. And in this context, I'd like to celebrate that we have, this council has celebrated opening footpaths around at least two of our parks in recent years. That's Naunton Park and also Burrows playing field. And I know that these have been welcomed by residents, and I can report indeed at first hand that they are well used by walkers, including rather sporty power walkers, and indeed by joggers. And beyond this, we're continuing to work with our officers and indeed with the officers of the County Council to improve our footpaths which crisscross Cheltenham. And in the case of the Holst Way in Cheltenham Park, we are working to reopen a footpath that has been closed for years. So just to conclude, as a council, we take walking seriously, and it perhaps deserves highlighting a little bit further in our next sports strategy. Thank you.
Councillor Jeffries.
Thank you, Leader. And like Councillor Collins, I wouldn't be described as having been involved in sports throughout my life, if at all, to be fair. But I do agree with Councillor Dobie there in terms of walking. I think I'm really pleased that the actual strategy itself says physical activity, because the amount of people who just go and walk their dogs and have that physical activity, but actually the amount of people that walk on our pathways and our green spaces, you know, use our town effectively and their communities for that activity, I think is quite unique and ever expanding. I'm really supportive of the strategy itself and the action plan, but I think in future iterations, showing more about other activities would be interesting, because I didn't realise, I've been walking around some of our parks and there's a gym equipment in some of these parks. Again, not one to frequent a gym myself personally, but others do. But it was interesting to know that they were there, this equipment was there. What I think is really critical, I think, part of this action plan is that Feel Good Pass and that youth activity pass, because encouraging those people that wouldn't normally have either the time or the funding to be able to get involved in some sort of physical activity, I think is critical. We know that obesity is on the rise. So yeah, this sort of thing that we do as a town, like you say, Councillor Telford, leveraging that investment to further enhance our facilities is critical. So wholly supportive, Leader. Thank you, Councillor Telford.
Councillor Atherstone.
Thank you, Leader. Yep, I would also like to thank Councillor Telford for bringing the support to us today and for all the work that Councillor Hora did and with the officers here today, because you can see that a lot of work has gone into this, and you know, it's brought together a lot of previous reports, and I think it's very, very clear what we need to do as a town now going forward, that's going to open up with this clear action plan so many more possible, not only funding opportunities to deliver some of these identified options in terms of improving physical activity and sport in our town, but also generating enhanced relationships, whether that's with our parish councils or our schools. And as Councillor Jeffries just mentioned, the introduction of our youth activity pass. So we're going to be looking at that over the next couple of months, building a mechanism so that one of the barriers, as identified from the collaboration with young people, is often not wanting to be active, but is having that barrier in terms of the cost to access. So the youth activity pass should go a long way in the future to sort of breaking that barrier down. It's really pleasing to see also that we're going to be doing even further engagement with young people as to what types of activities. And it was a little bit concerning to see that being physically active is a bit of a challenge, especially for younger females when you compare them to boys. So I'd be very interested to understand what do the young girls want to do? Why isn't it that they're not engaging so much? I know we've spoken a lot about football and rugby. So I think we need to really look at that and see how we can provide more community sports for young women in our town. But overall, I think it's a great action plan, and I'm really looking forward to seeing the fruits of its labour.
Councillor Baker.
Thank you. Yes, I did listen to the overview and scrutiny meeting last night where they discussed this, and it is a really good and timely report. I think for me, physical and mental health can so be helped by the friendships generated actually by partaking in sport. A lot of the sport is done in teams, but not necessarily in teams. Whether it's climbing, you go along to a climbing centre, or it's dance, Catherine, you go to a dance studio and you dance. I think my experience of being mayor showed me what a fabulous town we have in terms of the opportunities that are available, many of which, of course, we cannot provide as a borough council, but which are provided by the private sector. And I think it's important we work as we do with the private sector, with the private schools, who all have tremendous facilities, and the more we can get shared agreements to work with them, the better. And we have some fabulous clubs in our town, absolutely fabulous. If you take people like the Hampton Rovers, hundreds of children take part in that in a really well organised format, and they raise funds. Charlton Rovers, Lakeside, and then the Old Pats on the rugby side, hundreds of children involved in that. So we are blessed with some fabulous organisations in our town. And then we have the Cheltenham Youth Football League, which covers hundreds, probably thousands of children and youth have taken part in that. But that does take us back to the shortage of pitches, which is something that we are aware of, and we're looking to invest in improving pitches. The good news on that is that Pitfall School has got its planning permission for a full-size 3G pitch and a new sports hall. That is absolutely fabulous news, and that was in our plan, I think, that was going to happen. So that is going to happen, and they've got the money to do it. So that's great. I think it's important that when we do these new developments like the Elms, we are putting all that sort of stuff into that plan, so we are getting it delivered, including walkways through the new estate, which is really important. I think the role friends groups play as well, as Ian Catadobi referred to, the Friends of Sanford Park raise money for all that gym equipment, which is disabled friendly, really opening up a whole new avenue of opportunity for people of all age groups. And there's things like Tai Chi, which I took part in as mayor. I think sometimes a lot of stuff's going on that people don't know about. So the more we can try and do to promote all these different things which are happening in our town to the wider audience, the better. So I'm really pleased to support this. Thank you.
Wow, that was well discussed, and people are excited. Councillor Telford, do you want to come back?
I would just like to thank everyone for their kind of comments, contributions to that, because I think I've got a few bits that I picked up on. One was obviously in terms of rugby and things like that, and the 3G pitches, and just highlighting how important they are, because it's one of those things that obviously we all would rather be playing football or rugby or whatever on real grass and all of that. But in reality, you can only play so many games, especially with drainage and all of that, and it costs so much money to maintain those pitches for all these different clubs. So things like 3G pitches are perfect because you can play effectively an unlimited amount of games on there as long as you've got, the time to do it. And they're so important because rugby, football, and all those sports that can play on that means that more children can play, more adults can play. And as I was mentioned, obviously with friendships, I play football every Monday with my friends and connect with friends that otherwise wouldn't see each other that very often. And that is so important for people to be able to do. And without things like 3G pitches, you wouldn't be able to, because the pitch would be knackered halfway through the season. And I think that's why those things are so important. And the playing pitch strategy that we had previously obviously noted that, and how we can try and work with organisations. So it's good to see Pitfield Schools approval for their 3G pitch. And obviously we need to make sure we secure community use agreements for as many of these schools and things as we can to make sure that the more people can use them, the better. And obviously there was note of walking more and putting more of that into this document. And I think that's an absolutely fair point. And I think it's, having just come from the Green Spaces portfolio and walking my dog multiple times a day myself, it is such a valued part of people's everyday life in Cheltenham, and an area I think a lot of people do take for granted is how nice it is to just be able to go out and walk your dog in our lovely town and lovely parks. So the more we can highlight that, and the more accessible we can make that. And I think it's worth saying that obviously recently we did get some UK SBF funding that went into some paths for 2 of our parks as well, and green spaces. So the more external funding we can find to do those projects, the better, and the more accessible we can make parks and sports and the disabled friendly gym that you have in Sanford Park is a really good example of that kind of thing, and where community can work with us to secure funding that we wouldn't otherwise be able to get to actually make these things a reality. And I think that's where this document really goes into it, how we can work with other organisations to actually make things happen. Because on our own, we're not going to be able to do all the things that we'd love to do, but working with other organisations, we can make it happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Telford. Could I see a show of hands to approve this report, please? Thank you. That's unanimous. That leads us on now to the briefing session, so I will hop round the room. Councillor Collins, have you got anything?
Sorry, getting carried away. Just a couple of things, just to update colleagues and our obviously global universal audience that are watching this. I've recently signed off on the Cheltenham non-residential monitoring report, which is something that we need to do as a local authority, and it's actually really quite interesting, some of the stuff that's in there. We've also, within the teams, have started to work on the Draft Housing Delivery Test Action Plan, or the HDTAP, because I know that Councillor Lewis likes an acronym or two. This basically, it shows the main thing that will jump out at most people will be the 5-year land supply, which we all know we're not at the moment. But this will help to monitor that much more closely than it has been in the past. And hopefully with Elms Park and the Golden Valley developments and the other strategic developments that are going to be taking place around the borough in the next few years, we'll be getting much closer to that 5 years. And the last thing, hopefully you'll have noticed, I think it was yesterday, it may have been this morning, that our Director of Community and Economic Development, Tracy Birkinshaw, has signed off on our Cotswold Beechwood SAM allocations document, which is basically our financial contribution to making sure that we have an on-site ranger service there, and that'll be for the next 2 years. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Collins. Councillor Lewis.
Thank you, Leader. I mean, like many members of the Cabinet here today, I am in a new portfolio since last I was at this meeting. So I've been part of the major development team for about 8 days, as Isaac has in his portfolio. And it must be said, the future is so bright, you have to wear shades. That's not why I'm wearing them, but I'm going to lean into it. Got to have an excuse for it. They are an excellent bunch of people. I've met with many of them so far and talked about the very ambitious ideas we have, not just for the Golden Valley, which is such a huge part of our major development sort of portfolio, but actually for things like high street regeneration and for housing delivery. And on the housing delivery front, we do have some fantastic news. So the Monkscroft development that hit a bit of a snag earlier due to economic factors, unfortunately, is back on the agenda. It is a 100% affordable housing development with those easy walking paths, very high climate standards, and a mixture of housing tenures from 1-bedroom flats through to a 5-bedroom house that actively reflects the shortcomings that we have at the moment on the housing waiting list. So there will be wheelchair accessible properties, that 5-bedroom house, lots of those small 1-bedroom flats, we know are a massive shortage as part of our housing delivery. So it's a fantastic development to go to planning, and I do hope our friends on the planning committee grant us that permission. Another quick thing to highlight is that we've been doing some fantastic promotion over the past week for the jam coding project that the Golden Valley team contribute to. They put money into coding classes for kids in local primary schools. We've released some fantastic videos over the last few days of kids having a fantastic time, but also developing the skills that they need to go on to have fantastic careers, not just in the Golden Valley, but in the wider tech ecosystem. It's a fantastic bit of work, and a big part of Pete Jeffries, who obviously was the previous cabinet member for this portfolio, he put a massive push in on social value and how we could make the Golden Valley development give back to the community as much as possible. And this is very much the tip of the iceberg of what we're doing. So it's an excellent time to be in major developments, must be said. Thank you, Leader.
Councillor Telford.
Thank you, Leader. Yeah, as Alicia said, busy 8 days, but glad to have been doing this and getting to grips with my new portfolio. Thank you to obviously Richard Gibson for all the work he did on that sports and physical activity action plan, but also for the meetings we've had so far, for me to get to grips with that side of things. I had a meeting with Helen Mole, who's on a kind of marketing Cheltenham side yesterday, and obviously continue to have meetings with Tracy Birkenshaw on all our public realm and looking for ways we can sort out some of the recent issues in highways going forward. And going forward, I've got a lot of meetings already in the diary with some of our fantastic organisations, such as the Wilson later this week, and many more in my diary already. So I'm looking forward to getting to grips with all of that and meeting all of our different leaders of all these organisations, because they contribute so much to our festival town and to all of our culture and well-being and all these things that we offer that makes Cheltenham, much like Parks and Green Spaces, my previous portfolio, they're things that make Cheltenham Cheltenham and make people want to live here and want to invest here. And there's obviously plenty of challenges ahead, but there's also lots of positive things. And I just want to highlight one of those, which is Cheltenham Lido's 90-year celebration, which is taking place this Sunday. So it's worth going to if you can, because I think it's a really positive thing that they've got to 90 years. And we've done a lot of work over the years to support them. And I'm glad we do. And I know our town supports them because they're a fantastic organisation. And it's a really lovely thing to still have as a town, an outdoor Lido, and to have that facility. So if you can get there to celebrate, then please do. And if not, enjoy them over the summer while we still have this concerning period of hot weather. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Telford. Councillor Dobie.
Nothing much to report at this point in time. I've been quite busy over in Shire Hall with my new responsibility on the County Council. I would like to say I look forward to the opportunity of bringing together the county and the Borough Council on various issues. I mean, I've already mentioned the issue of footpaths, for example, where some of the footpaths go over land that's owned by the Borough Council, but nevertheless responsibility for long-distance footpaths, for example, is covered by the County Council. And even before we get to the state of being a unitary, there's already plenty, as you will know, Leader, that we are doing and will continue to be intensively doing, and I think more intensively doing over the next 3 years with Shire Hall. And I look forward to playing a minor role in ensuring that liaison is as effective for the people of Cheltenham as possible.
Thank you, Councillor Dobie. I was going to save it for my when it got to me for the briefing to say that, thank you for your contribution to our cabinet. It's been very much valued, and wish you well on the County Council. Thank you. Councillor Clucas.
Just a couple of things, Leader, if I may, which may at first not seem connected. So let me start with the international one. Over the last few weeks, I have been representing the Local Government Association at a variety of meetings where I have been absolutely privileged to say what we do in Cheltenham. It's been terrific because I can go and I can speak and I can say what we do. Within those, there is actually a particular message that is coming through. You referred to it, Councillor Atherstone, earlier. That message is that girls and women are retreating from many aspects of life. And one of the reasons is because they don't feel safe. And I think it's interesting, the comment you made in relation to sport and what we're doing in relation to sport will, I hope, change that perception here in Cheltenham. Certainly in relation to what we're going to do at Petersfield, that will make a difference because of the number of girls who will be attracted to play sport there. However, it's been great to be able to go along and to talk to people across Europe about what we do here to make girls and women safe. And as Richard's here, I'm going to ask him to pass on my thanks to the staff who've been involved in that, people like Kelly and Tracy, and himself, of course. But also, it's great to be able to say, you know what, if you want to learn from what we're doing, you can. And from that perspective, being able to represent Cheltenham, to say what we do, how we do it, the difference it makes, is a great honour and a great privilege. So thank you for allowing me to speak, Leader. Thank you for your question, because I thought it was really pertinent. And thank you for the work, and Martin, of course, for the work that's currently being done.
Thank you, Councillor Lucas. Councillor Atherstone.
Thank you, Leader. Just a few updates from me today. First of all, I just want to say a huge thanks to our licensing officers and all of the partners that they work with us being awarded our 10th consecutive Purple Flag Award, which we're assessed on in terms of our offering on the evening and nighttime economy. That is a fantastic achievement. So really want to put on record my huge thanks to that team and also to their partnership working. Also, from a communities aspect, I was very happy to be volunteering at our Pride Festival this weekend. It was great to engage with the community and speak to all the different vendors that were also there, including the police, and spoke to them specifically about hate crime and safety in our communities. I had the pleasure also of meeting some of our Cheltenham International Partnerships twinning countries and towns. So Annecy and Girtingham, they came over for the Jazz Festival, and I was asked to do a presentation and update about our work with No Child Left Behind, in particular, our work with our Year of Youth Action this year. That was a great opportunity for me to chat with them, and dialogue has continued since. And then other than that, just to say that I am really, really busy working with the officers, digesting all of the consultation responses we've received for both our updated sexual entertainment venue licensing policy and also our taxi policy. So I just want to thank everybody that took the time to provide responses to those two very important consultations. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Jeffries.
Thank you, Leader. As a fellow member of the 8-Day Club, I think I want to mention the fact that I've not got much to report. I've been a keen follower of the finances of this council and the assets, and I've been watching it over somebody's shoulder. I've just got to say there wasn't much watching to be done, to be fair. The ship was steady and the council's finances were held together nicely by Councillor Lewis. So thank you, Councillor Lewis, for leaving me a steady ship. That being said, our finances do get hit from time to time from global economic forces and other economies, and I've seen them wildly swing left and right. So I suspect with what we've been going on in the last few months will come back and impact us some way, shape or form down the line economically. So I'm watching that with keen interest. On property matters, there's always lots going on, and I'm very keen to get stuck into how we support our communities through our properties. Councillor Lucas, you mentioned the Petersfield Partnership, and I'm picking up that report and looking at that paperwork as we speak. So nothing specific, Leader, but just thought I'd mention the 8-Day Club. Thank you.
So our last but not least Cabinet member, and a very big welcome to Paul, Councillor Baker, to his first formal meeting of Cabinet. I know he came and watched us last time and he didn't do a runner. He put his name forward, he got elected, and he's here today. So again, I don't know, is it an 8-day wonder? Something like that again.
Can I just say it's been an absolute delight. I've had, I don't know, a week or so and learned so much already. What I would say is all the officers I've met and talked to have been absolutely first class. And I get blown away actually by the longevity of our staff, how long they've been with us and the experience they have. And it says, I think, a lot about our organisation and about how much they love our town. So that's been absolutely fantastic. Just a few things. I mean, I'm very fortunate to inherit Isaac's portfolio, Parks and Gardens, Refuse Recycling and Crematorium. And what a joy our parks are at this time of the year. And I would highlight No Mow May, which we're already halfway through that. But, you know, the diversity that gives both to nature, but also to the experience when you're walking through a park is fabulous. And I would be really keen, if possible, if we can try and expand the number of sites where we do introduce the No Mow May. So if members have got any thoughts about that for next year, that would be great. Another exciting thing is the long gardens on the promenade are soon going to be planted up with their perennial planting scheme. Not the best time of the year to be doing it, of course, and it's going to involve a lot of watering, but you know that will transform the the appearance of the promenade there. Big issues around the security of our parks. We know all about that. Had meetings with Adam, with rolling programme of trying to improve security of the parks and open spaces, recreation grounds. New bins are going in, at the moment along the promenade and the high street. New bins and more bins. So hopefully people might use them. Most people do. Some people sadly don't. So really lots of good news. I'm not saying there aren't challenges, and there are, but I won't go into those now. We probably know what they are. But no, thoroughly enjoying it. Thank you.
So I just have a couple of things that I want to mention. One of those is that we, as you know, when we submitted our proposal through to government with a view to unitarisation or local government reorganisation, or as I prefer to call it, a change in the way we do things, which is actually much more understandable to me for most people. So we have now had the feedback from government tail end of last week, which doesn't really tell us anything. But, you know, they did promise it. It was about 3 weeks late, but we do have it. And as I say, it really doesn't tell us very much at all, other than sort of reiterate things that were in that original document. But since that time, obviously we've had county council elections, and you know, the importance of working across the 7 authorities. So I'm not differentiating between the county or the districts, because actually we're all on a level playing field, really, because we're all going to go. So I'm really quite excited about the prospect of being able to work with a fresh new, brand new administration at the county council after tomorrow's their council meeting, where the new administration will be taking up their roles. So I very much look forward to working with them. And it is fair to say that I've actually already had several conversations with Lisa Spivey, who will be the new leader, subject to tomorrow's council vote. And that's really promising. You know, you're talking the same language and ambition, and actually caring about each of the communities, whether that's Cheltenham, Stroud, Gloucester, Forest of Dean. You know, she represents all of that. So I'm very much looking forward to working with her. I think that's just the 2 brief updates I wanted to do today. So thank you. That takes us now on to Cabinet member decisions. And given that Councillor Horwood is no longer here, there is just something I think that I would like to see changed, is the although it is a title that is going to be is now there with Councillor Tailford. I think at the time when Councillor Horwood was Cabinet member, it didn't contain public realm. So we just need to correct that bit, I think. And I'm sorry I didn't notice it earlier. So the first decision was the approval of the award of grant funding for the Cheltenham Health and Wellbeing grants, which we do in partnership with the NHS. And you know, we've made there's lots of that have been awarded. It's really quite exciting opportunity. As always with those types of grants and applications, they're massively oversubscribed. But I think they've done as a partnership, done a really good job on whittling those down and to cover some really important opportunities for people. And again, so that was the decision of Councillor Horwood. I took a decision on the 10th of April, and that was to allocate the UK Shared Prosperity Fund, which, you know, we've been lucky enough, the government decided to still give us for this year. Again, we could have spent the money 500 times over, let alone 50 times over, but we've made that small amount of money go a long, long way. And given that we only have until the 31st of March next year, it's important that the projects that we chose to support actually can be completed and that money spent, because I certainly don't want to hand any money back. The next decision was again mine, and it's a standing one that I do every year, and we have a an amazing Cotswold area of outstanding natural beauty. And the Cotswold National Landscape Organisation. So we give them every year a letter of support to say that basically we support what they do. So I made that decision on the 17th of April. And the last one was for the, which has already had a mention in today's meeting, is Councillor Hallwood allocated the Cheltenham Feel Good Pass to facilitate that whole bit around more people becoming involved and getting the opportunity that can't necessarily afford it. So that's all the decisions, and I certainly don't think, well, there are no urgent items that I'm determined that it needs to be urgent and requires a decision. So at 6:45, or just a minute before 6:45,